So, wasn't sure what the interest would be in this, because to be honest, it's kind of a niche thing. Anybody familiar with eSports, just in general? Like the language, right? Well, I'm a gamer, I'm a hardcore, nerd myself. When I first heard of eSports, I thought it was sports, like football, soccer, lacrosse, whatever. eSports is apparently a lot of like shooting games, where people get on teams and shoot each other. I've never been a big fan of shooting games, but we're gonna get into kind of what this talk is all about. Just for context, so you guys have some clue who's speaking right now. My name's Andy Rose. I'm a tech guy, I'm a nerd. I've worked a lot of places and had a lot of titles that don't really mean anything if you actually get into working somewhere. I was talking with Brent about this. What's a title really mean? I'll take out the trash most places, I don't care. Won some awards, whatever. I've stopped doing the creative aspect of execution, so you'll notice my award run stops in like the 2021 area. I moved into being operations, right? So I went from being a film school editor, animator, copywriter, creative director, backpack video guy, to vice president, brand strategy, right? So I no longer have to get to do the cool fun stuff of making things. I have to sell other people on why they should pay us to make things, right? So that's a little bit more of my day-to-day now. But this isn't really as much about my day-to-day now as it's much about me and kind of like my wanderlust interests that got me here. So at a glance, I'm originally from Rochester, which was the original 716, just putting it out there. I attended New York Film Academy after winning a Telly in high school. I thought that meant a lot. I thought that was super important. No one told me you just get a Telly as long as you submit. But the AV director at my school totally made me think that that was a huge thing, to the point where he convinced me to like go pursue film school and stuff. So thanks to him, I kind of got into doing some of this. But at the end of the day, I had to make a living. So I went to New York Film Academy. I became a certified editor, motion animator. I lived on sets. I went from New York to LA to New York, working on reality TV and working on big sports events and music events. My brother's in the music industry. I started working for Apple. Then I got to be a creative software trainer and I got to work there during the Steve Jobs era. I actually worked there when he died, which is a very weird story I would be happy to talk about over drinks. Very bizarre culture. In Apple. There's a reason I don't work at Apple anymore, but I still use all their products. So about 20 or so years in Western New York since I moved back from New York and LA and New York. Really focused on digital, social. The last 8, like I said, more strategy, operations, new biz, growth hacking type of stuff. And I'm a graduate of the 4 A's. Anybody familiar with the 4 A's? The American Association of Advertising, and I can never remember what the last A is, so I think they should call it the 3 A's. But they have a leadership training program, so I'm a graduate of that guy, right? Like, not who I am or what I do. But I've gotten to work with really cool brands, like super cool brands. Some of the biggest brands in the world that I didn't even bother putting on here, because after a while, the bigger the brand, like, the harder it is to actually get to do really cool, engaging, immersive stuff. Sometimes what you need is somebody who's like, nobody knows who we are, but we have an okay budget. Let's do something to make some noise. So like, those are the clients I love working with. So I'll talk a little bit about my personal philosophy. I'm a huge fan of Marty Neumeier. I don't know if anybody's familiar with Marty Neumeier. He is a brand guru. He's a best-selling author. I've been trying to option this book into a movie for the last 1.5 years. I'm very close to getting that done. But he basically has come up with all these kind of terminologies and slang words for when you're trying to really stand out with your branding. And so one of his great books is Zag, right? If everybody's zigging, you should zag. Kind of cut against the grain of standard convention. That's kind of a philosophy I believe in. So how does that come out? Through conversation. I like to get out and have conversations like this. I like to talk with people about, what are you doing? What are you trying to break apart? I was the kid who would remember the cow says moo, like the speak and say thing. I took that apart when I was like 4 years old, and I was trying to figure out how, which wires, if I could cross them, if I could get different sounds. My dad's an engineer. My mom did not like that I was doing that. A lot of my work comes through in a more disruptive fashion, right? So because I was the digital guy at a lot of places, I passed. I would do more digital activations. That's an older one. It was an augmented reality experience for Xerox. They host the Rochester International Jazz Festival in Rochester. They did that for a very long time. This is something I just made a few weeks ago. It's a browser-based app about popping fireworks, and because I like to seed a little bit of reality into everything, by the time you explode all the fireworks in the sky, even though you're getting combos and points and stuff, the sky gets real hazy. Because actually what a lot of people don't realize is that fireworks are one of the causes for 4th of July being one of the highest polluting days in America as far as in our environment. So I like to jab people with, you love America? Stop doing all that damn pollution. So that was just, this was an example of the owner of my company saying, hey, do we have anything for social media for 4th of July? And everybody looking at each other on July 3rd and saying, no, we were going on vacation, so no. So I made a game in a day. That was basically our solution for that. So yeah, I like to do disruptive work. This is an example of some disruptive work I led. Everybody familiar with Pyrex? Your grandma's bakeware, right? That's actually grandpa in a grandma cooking outfit that they ran back in the day. But Pyrex had not released a new product in like 58 years. 50 some odd, almost 60 years. And so I got handed the account. We won the business. Guess what? A new product launched for Pyrex. What is it? It's a slightly larger dish. It's just a little bit taller than it was before. They can't even say 50% because technically that's not legally accurate. But they said, we're just gonna round up and say it's 50% deeper. So it became the Pyrex Deep. They said, okay, now we have to market it and it has to sell gangbusters. So with my perspective as a guy who does like to cook, but the clients being all female, they thought, this guy with tattoos, he doesn't know anything about the kitchen. I said, you know where I spend a lot of time when I'm looking for food inspiration? Pinterest. You know what you see when you look for food on Pinterest? A bunch of full food. You know what you don't see? Empty dishes. So for that specific context, let's place an empty dish in the middle of where they're seeing a bunch of food. Let them use their imagination. What would you put in this thing, right? So that became kind of the crux of this campaign, which originally it had a small Pinterest buy, but they loved that thinking so much that they exploded it into all sorts of other stuff, right? And we had all these fun lines because the Pyrex Deep was the product. We said, it's not just family size, it's third cousin, twice removed size, Pyrex Deep. Room for both sides of the family. Which holiday Vice describes you best? Turkeyholic or cream addict? They wanted to be very socially engaging, very forward with their audience that they targeted. So this is how we brought that campaign to life. And this was a ton of fun if you've ever gotten to work with food photography or food photographers. Very cool opportunity, very cool experience. We did, at the time, these Instagram takeovers were really all the rage, so we had all these cool shots and we said, okay, well, we'll just do this 3-up, and any single one that you tap into essentially will then take you to the full ad unit, right? So again, all this is just a little bit of context for how I think about things in the professional day job as far as being disruptive, creating conversation, and really, my calling card has kind of become that professionally. People say, oh, we need to do something different or weird or something we haven't done yet. Let's talk to Andy. So I'm usually the guy they call in for that. So stuff that I do for brands, this is filming a commercial on set in Chicago, strategy, concept, creative, consulting. I do all that stuff. Now I do it at D-Post here in Buffalo on Main Street, where I am the Vice President of Brand Strategy and Development. But basically we make anything that would live on a screen. Video, animation, 3D, virtual, we do it all. Now you're probably saying, time out, wait a minute. I was so excited to come here and learn about an AI football league. What the hell are you talking about right now? None of this has anything to do with that. You're right, I'm getting to that. So let's go back a little. This cute guy, that cute guy, this cute guy, all the same guy. It's up to you. So I was a football player as a kid. Loved football. I was a video gamer as a kid. Loved Madden football games. Also, in pandemic, I got super into Dungeons and Dragons. Totally makes sense for a theater nerd like me, right? Now the thing is, I might have said this at some point, I was an improviser for many years in New York, LA, and Rochester. Jiva Theater, if anyone's familiar with Rochester, it's kind of like the Shays of Buffalo a little bit. They had a professional improv troupe, so they paid us to rehearse twice a week and perform one weekend a month. Well, wouldn't you know, come pandemic, all those people are living around the country. Those are all the guys that I decided let's play some D&D with. So we got into playing Dungeons and Dragons. Anybody ever played Dungeons and Dragons? Yeah, there you go, right on. you're basically creating a character and telling a story. And because I am who I am and I can't help myself, and pandemic created a lot of idle time, I said, let me run a custom game that I wrote for my friends that takes place in like a sci-fi universe, right? Well, because I'm also a film school guy, I couldn't help myself, so I had to start using creative and generative AI tools like Runway, Midjourney, Gemini to create this whole backstory. There's usually audio to this. Oh, I think I turned it off because I didn't want it to be distracting. But the cool thing that you guys would never know from watching any of this, all the characters in this story are directly based on my friends who were playing the game with me. So when they looked at us playing the game and they looked at all the art, it was their face on the character that they created, right? So it's one thing to say, I'm gonna be a barbarian and have a cool Viking outfit. It's much cooler when you see yourself as the barbarian in the Viking outfit. Granted, this was way more outer space driven. So that gets us to what I'm actually here to talk about, Football Rivals Pro. What is it, and why the heck was I talking about D&D? Well, it's basically a fantasy football role-playing game with real money involved. That's not bad, right? And the catch, I used a lot of AI to help me build it because it's a lot to create your own game and have a Discord community of users who are involved in it. So, what is it, simply put? It's a mix of Dungeons and Dragons, right? Instead of building a warlock, a wizard, a rogue, you're building a quarterback, a defensive end, a safety. We have a guy who built a kicker. Okay, that's what he wanted to be. And it's mixed with the kind of thesis of fantasy football. You get really invested in almost players as much as teams. You're hoping they do well. You have no real control, but you're tied to it, and there's some money on the line. So that's essentially what our league is, but how did we get to the point of having our league? Like I said, I'm a big gamer. Back in the day, there was a ton of football games. Different companies, different developers, different publishers. Well, in 2004, that one, EA Sports signed an exclusivity contract with the NFL, meaning that any other company that had been making NFL football games was no longer allowed to. They literally had a monopoly on being able to make football video games. So naturally, what do you think happened when there's a monopoly? The quality fucking tanked, right? All the cool things that used to be available to you, no longer available. Can't do cool customization. There are games for football where you could like beat guys up and like drop leg drops on them and body slam them. You can't do that stuff anymore. They want to be super realistic, super accurate, nothing fun. So in that gap, right, when I think in my marketing mindset, there's a gap that gets created. Two things started to happen. Sim leagues. This is when people said, okay, there are older video games. Notice some of this footage is like really crunchy looking. So there was an older, like 2000, I don't know, 10 or 8 or whatever, version of a football game where you could still do customization and it still kind of ran on some machines. So guys said, okay, we're gonna create a universe of fully fictional teams and people can create players and they can become a part of this league and they watch it, they don't play it, you watch it like a real broadcast, but you're invested in the guys that you've created and put on the field. So along with sim leagues came the rise of modded leagues, where people could essentially hack the Madden video game and start injecting their own gear, their own uniforms, their own logos. Well, that's kind of cool. So what if you just smush them together, right? Like how hard could that be? Well, I'll tell you what, it's really freaking hard. It's really hard. The guys who figured out how to hack the Madden video game, they do not want to share that information with other people. They want to withhold that so that you can maybe pay them some money to run a league. Well, I'm entrepreneurially minded. You know, I've ran a lot of web dev teams. I got a lot of smarter people than me that I can call on for favors. And one of them actually said, yeah, you know what? Has anybody heard of GitHub? Yeah, a guy goes, well, there's a developer who got fired from EA Sports a couple years ago. And you know what he did? He posted the entire repo for Madden NFL video games on his GitHub. And because he has IP directly inside the origination of that, they're caught up in a legal battle where they can't force him to take it down. Okay, well that's interesting. I am, again, a film school guy who became in charge of web stuff. I'm not a coder. I made that game with AI, the firework popping game. But I do have a subscription to Claude, right? And I know enough to be dangerous, so I said, okay, well, what if I sick Claude on this Git repo for this video game that I love? And wouldn't you know it, Claude is very helpful. So after about 9 months, I still had to do a lot of manual work, right? We're talking 32 teams of logo design. We wanted no Buffalo Bills, Buffalo Brawlers, no New York Jets, Virginia Beach Bombers, right? So we had to do 32, it was a whole branding exercise. Each team needed its own unique kind of logo, mascot, storyline, uniforms, everything that people love about real sports, we had to come up with. So after about 9 months of working, designing all that stuff, we got to a real version that worked on the PC, and we could actually play our teams, our players. We did a fake it year with like a team builder thing that EA Sports offers you. It was kind of meh. So I'm just gonna show you guys now is our kind of kickoff announcement trailer for year 2, which was really the first like opening salvo. It's all our teams, all our colors, all our logos, but we were pretty proud of it. So let me play that.
It's Football Rivals! And year 2 has finally landed. The league's got a new look, new uniform, new field, and yeah, that's a purple football. This isn't just a season update, it's a statement being made. With 3 times the prime time, fresh gear, fresh ink, white goalposts, fresh drinks. Every stadium's got a pulse with their own unique field to defend. So make one your own. 32 handcrafted franchises, only available here, where you can be an MVP on the field or test your mettle as a GM. Play for pride, play for glory, play for year-end awards and bonuses. What are you waiting for? Get off of the sideline and get into the game. It's Football Rivals Year 2, and it's fucking awesome.
So clearly our fans were into that, right? They dug that. So for the guys who knew what the league was, that was a pretty exciting moment. Totally custom uniform, like all the purple football, the white goalposts, like you can't do any of that stuff in the game out of the box. We had to kind of add and inject all that stuff into it. So when we talk about, getting into the pros, well, what does that mean? We have a whole pipeline feeder system. So guys create a player as a college player. And actually, you know what? I can show you that because I just built it, and I just built it with AI as well. So let's pull that up real quick. So, which way is the screen? There we go. So this is the homepage, footballrivals.pro. Has anybody heard of Base 44? Base 44 is an AI web site builder, kind of like a Wix, kind of like a Squarespace, but there's no templates. You just talk to a chat, and it starts building your stuff out. Now, that was really cool at first, but when you think about everything that goes into a season of football, that's 272 games with 32 teams, right? Now, if every game has to be watched like a broadcast, one thing that can't be done with AI, well, somebody's got to open up the game, hit play, and record the game for the hour long, however long a game is. Well, that's unfortunately mostly my job along with one other guy. And we do 14 to 16 games a week over an 18-game season plus playoffs. That's a big chunk of your year, as my wife likes to say. And my wife also started saying, this is taking a lot of your time. Now, granted, my wife goes to bed very early, so when she says it's taking a lot of your time, she means the small sliver between when I get home and when she goes to bed, and she wanted that time back. And since I only want to be married one time, I said, honey, for you, I'm going to lean into AI and see what I can automate. So if you didn't catch it in the video, you can be a player, you can also be a GM. GMs pay a lot of money to run a team, like several $100s to run a team per season, because all that goes into the kitty. Teams that win MVP, the Rivals Cup instead of the Super Bowl, they all get cash payouts, right? So we're at a loss. We're operating this at a loss, but that's okay because it's for fun. But along with running a team, inside a video game, you have to log in. If you want your Josh Allen to be your quarterback, you got to make sure he's at the top of your depth chart. If he's injured, you got to pick a replacement. There's a draft every year. You have to scout players and draft players. And you have to sign free agents. All that stuff you're supposed to do by logging into the file. Well, when we mod the game, you can't share it online. So that means it goes from everybody running their own team to one person with a controller having to make the updates for every single GM's team. Well, you can see how that could become the time suck that Mrs. Rose was warning me of. So this is where I lean even further into working with Claude. Actually, I might have that up. And I automated everything. So instead of having to export CSVs out of the back end of the game to collect data and show what each player's stats were that week, right? So if you go to, so we're in the playoffs right now. Actually, as you can see, the Rivals Cup is the only game left, the championship. It's tonight with live commentary, and Buffalo is in the Rivals Cup, just for the record. Just want to put it out there. Buffalo is not afraid of getting to the big game in this league. But when you look at things like the schedule, right? Regular season, 272 games. I forgot the 48 preseason games. But you can hop into a game. You can either rewatch it if it already occurred. You can see all the individual stat lines that have been broken down. So I used to sync all of this via Google Sheets exports, right? That took a lot of time. So with Claude, I was able to essentially dive deep into the game save file itself and essentially just do all that automated. So I don't have to anymore make any sort of special time allowances. There we go, get this connected here. There we go. What I figured, because it's way more fun when it's interactive, if you guys were interested, we could build a feature into Football Rivals Pro right now while we're sitting here. Would you guys rather do that or rather hear me keep talking about it? Build, yeah, of course, yeah. So I will show you kind of my little Claude instance here. So here is kind of my setup for Claude. So Claude is running local on my PC at home right now, and I'm using TeamViewer, which is a, an app to allow you to basically see into your own machine. And because I thought this might be the way this conversation goes, I basically just said, I basically just said, hey, where is it? I want to work on a project for HQ today. What are some small bite-sized options for us to fix and improve? Because it's helped me, I moved everything from that base 44 builder I was talking about to now self-hosted using Claude. And that may sound complicated. It's really not when you have a friend like Claude. It becomes stupid simple. So it knows everything about the site because the whole code repository is sitting on my computer. So it's able to look at it and say, okay, here's all the stuff we've done, whatever. And then it literally just gives me, I gotta move this again. Menu of options. Well, what bite-sized project do you want to tackle today? So I'll let you guys pick. We can shrink the mobile team header. So when you go to the team page on mobile, you have to scroll a little extra because on desktop it's kind of a better view, and on mobile it's not optimized for mobile. That's the short version. Mobile quick wins, some small mobile wins, a shareable player showcase card, a polished postable player card page for members, where they can basically share that out to Discord and it'll show like a little card. And then the last is fixing the broken Google Sheet syncs. I assume that's not what you guys want to fix. Do any of these sound interesting so far? Because I can ask it for more.
Probably shareable.
The shareable card? Okay, cool. And this is literally how now I work on this site, is mostly through plain text prompting. Now, could I go in and monkey with a lot of the code? I'm dangerous enough, but it's a lot better when it does it. And I've set up a sandbox staging environment where I can look at things and review them in a safe place before I push it to production. That's my background, having built web projects and properties, to know not to be making edits to your live site, right? Have a staging sandbox site. So it's basically, you can see the token use. Brent was talking about that, token usage, right?
Token usage is a necessary evil in today's common marketplace. It's not going to go away. More and more companies are going to embrace it. It is just, until there's a better way for them to get our money, it is how they're going to do it. Yes, please.
Have you ran anything locally? Like, I can run, on my Mac, I can run LLMs locally, and I can actually get quite a lot.
So we've actually been having discussions about that because we do a lot of added generation. And let me hop back to the website quick, so I'll show you what I mean. So we've got this, you see our players, right? These are kind of hybridized players. So we did all the custom uniform and logo and design work, but we don't want guys to show up to the website and see what looks like a video game character model. So we run these through an LLM. We take a screenshot of the guy in his uniform and say, hey, just make him look a little more photorealistic. Well, people in the community were really digging that. So we've started making essentially, and here's like a whole tweet section that players can tweet and stuff. We've started, it's loading just a little slow, but that's the internet here, not the site. I promise it loads fast in real life. But guys in the community were really glomming onto that. And because we're a user-driven gaming community, we really will follow the scent of what guys want because they're the ones who are paying in to be a part of this league. So when they said, hey, we want these more photorealistic, so this is the Buffalo Brawlers rookie quarterback who just won MVP, let's go, taking them to the championship game, right? So guys wanted these photorealistic images. The problem is, every time we create one of those, we're paying another LLM AI tool to basically do something we could be self-hosting locally to create some very similar images. This is not a complex thing for an LLM to do now, to take a screenshot and just make it look a little bit more photoreal. So that's one of the small ways in which we're talking about embracing more of the stuff coming out of these subscription tools and hosting them all. The problem is I'm hosting them all on my local PC, like at my house, which is not like necessarily the best setup for like a scaffold that you would want like a full league of things to be on. Right now we're lucky. We have like 200 members in our Discord community. There's about 8 guys who actually pay to run teams as GMs. So we're definitely in our infancy, but like I've already been looking at like NAS servers and all sorts of other stuff that my wife doesn't want me to spend money on. But like I tell her all the time, I will do whatever I'm allowed to do that you tell me I'm allowed to do. So I'll look at a bunch of NASs and probably not buy one. Is probably what's going to happen. But yes, LLM hosted locally for me just makes a lot more sense. And as soon as I did it with the site development and took it away from base 44, I saved like $75 a month, right? So like if I can start peeling away some of these AI subscriptions, the only one clearly I'm going to keep using is Claude because now I'm very attached to Claude. But I've also found the way in which I'm able to use Claude, because I have enough development knowledge, I can set myself up for success. I have markdown libraries for Claude where I can feed it very specific things that I want it to know when I start a new session. So I've got all sorts of protocol built about anytime we start new work on something on, this is called League HQ, anytime we start work on something on League HQ, it knows to create a new branch in the repo. It knows not to be overwriting things that might be in mid-progress on a different branch where we're doing development work. So I've vamped about that enough. I'm sure he came back with an answer by now. Okay, so what should the shareable player card actually be? A downloadable image, it's recommending, an auto-unfurling link, which is a URL that previews itself in Discord. You need a server OG function, player image gen, bigger, bite-sized, defer to, not bite-sized, defer to V2. So maybe we start with the recommended one, right? Because I want to make sure we can do this in the time that we have. Who can generate a card and from where? So this is interesting. This gets into UX. One of the things I love about working with Claude in this way that base 44 did not do, it's highly considerate of our users. It's only highly considerate of our users because, again, I wrote a Claude Markdown file to make sure it's highly considerate of our users. So because it's highly considerate of our users, it's asking, well, who can generate a card? Can anyone generate a card? Should members, players, or GMs be the ones who generate their cards? Or should both players, GMs, and essentially anybody be able to create a card? I don't really care a ton either way because I think this is a good thing for the league to have, so I'll leave it up to you guys because I can also change it later. What do you guys think as far as a shareable player card? the first thing to start the league was, well, there's 32 teams with how many thousand players? I had to manually go in and rename every single guy. So it wasn't Josh Allen, it was Burt Bean. It's not Patrick Mahomes, it's Doug Baxter, right? So I had to rename all these guys. In the first year, I had to do it all with a controller by hand, which was just, hence you see why my wife is like, what are you doing? Are you sure this is a hobby? Like, you may be losing your mind here. But being able to now just tell Claude, hey, or so perfect example, the brand new college football game just came out like a week ago. It's the first time it's been on PC because they've been worried about people hacking it. 2 days after it was out, I was able to remove every single real player. So Archie Manning, like any of the real guys that are in the, and that's literally why they locked it, because they don't want you messing with those guys. In the early access window, I'd already removed all those guys and replaced it with all the guys that are in our college league, just through Madden Protocol, through Claude. I didn't have to even open the game, and I was able to remove every single NIL player. I was able to remove NIL, which is the name, image, likeness that the college sports systems use to pay players so they don't leave for the pros early. So as a gamer, you go, oh cool, there's these NIL guys, but I can't do anything with them. I can't change Arch Manning's height or his weight or his throwing hand. Well, I can just go in with Claude and I can change all of that stuff. So I've saved myself tons of manual time, and now I can just, and I could be controlling it right now from my phone. I mean, I'll be sitting there, after dinner and just doing some small stuff, and she's like, are you on social, or what's the difference? So you're on your phone too, right? That's okay, right? If we're in the same room on the same couch and I'm on my phone, that's fine. So that's how we work through it. And if you've been noticing, Claude's been working on this as we've been talking, right? And he's not only working. I call him a him. I don't know why. It's like my dad was an auto mechanic and he called every car a her. I don't know. I just call Claude him because it's got a masculine name. But I love that this stuff, because you can click into these things. If you aren't familiar with using Claude, you can click in and actually see what it's really doing computationally. Now, because it knows most people don't want to see that, like, it'll collapse it back up. But it'll tell you all the stuff. Well, I'm parsing both the files. Okay, now let me check and see the card before committing. So it's running local vision tools in like a separate side instance that you could open up and like watch it do all this stuff. But I don't need to do that. I did when I first installed it because I thought it was cool. Now it's just busyness, so I don't bother to click into it. But it just goes the whole way through. And as somebody who spent years leading teams of designers, developers, copywriters, it's like doing a creative review with a team, but he's got it ready in like 15 minutes instead of waiting till next Tuesday to see it from the creative team. Now, again, as a guy who's built his living in the creative industry, this is a double-edged sword. This is both terrifying, and as a guy who's a gamer who runs his own sports league, it's freaking awesome, right? So I have to be cognizant of the fact that professionally, this is gonna eat my lunch at some point, but personally, for my hobbies, like, it's just gonna make my gaming with my friends and this community that I've been able to be a part of building, it's gonna make it that much more immersive and cool. And like, who wouldn't love to be at the point where they literally are making their own video game? That's getting closer and closer to reality. I don't know if you guys have seen some of the stuff like that Google's done, where like you just drop into an instance that you prompted and you can just run around a level that didn't exist and technically doesn't exist a few pixels beyond your character's view. But the world for gamers is becoming so much more capable because of things like AI, even if professionally it's, gonna make me fear for my mortgage,
So the GitHub repo from the guy that left EA, since this is still working and since we're not going to run out of stuff to talk about, then I'll go
please.
a little bit around. So you said that he's got his own legal stuff going on.
Yeah.
Right? So that's fine. It's not your problem, really. So
and now I have access to the repo, so it doesn't matter. Even if he pulls it down, I have it.
So, but on a long enough timeline, you get super successful and EA comes after you, and that's a good problem to have. Right.
I would think so.
Right.
Because a lot of the guys who started in the mod community when they first hacked Madden, now they're corporate shills and they work for Madden.
Totally, 100%.
Now, I met a guy in an airport when I was much younger who does all the sound for the Madden games. I still have his business card because that's how much I've loved football games for that long. And I always thought, God, I'd love to work at Madden. That dream has shifted.
Oh, for sure.
I'd love to create a football game that competes with Madden.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're onto something and we can do that. The biggest competition for Madden has been, well, who wants a football video game without the real NFL teams? They've tried, but like They haven't gotten real support behind it because people are like, well, who wants the Buffalo Brawlers and the Orlando Sharks? I want the Miami Dolphins. We're proving there is a space for that. Maybe not at the AAA multi-million-dollar publisher level, but when all these tools are getting to the point where I can remove every single NFL logo from the Madden game and put all of our logos in, okay, well, it's running on the same Frostbite engine, but at what point is it, sure, totally understand all the equity they have in everything it took to build the game. I'm not discounting that. But from the presentation layer, it's effectively a different game, right? So totally understand they did all the hard work and I'm just skinning it. I think technology is evolving rapidly enough where things like motion capture for tackling and throwing and things looking realistic, you may not need motion capture anymore. You may be able to generate the right skeletal trees to map onto 3D bodies. Well, then that's a good passing animation. Okay, well, I think we're getting there, and like we've had these conversations like, do we keep modding the game year after year? For now, yes. But at some point in the next couple of years, and we're seeing more and more growth every week, we're getting more people joining. Okay, well, at some point it stands to reason that like we'll be able to build a proper real football video game. It's probably a year or two off. It might be closer than I think it is also, you know. So I'm excited by that prospect.
Is the game actually being played or is it just simulated?
So when we play games, we put it into what's called a slow sim mode. So as a GM, you set your lineup, you hire and fire, all that stuff. But when it's the actual gameplay, it essentially goes into a broadcast mode that Madden has, where you just watch CPU versus CPU. It's just like watching a real football game. There's commentators doing all that. One of the layers we add for specialty games, like the championship tonight, we have real human broadcast guys who call the games, and they know the lore of the league. I've also been working on, it wasn't ready for today, but I'm very excited about it. I've been working on a commentary replacement engine, because Madden has its own commentary, which is really just a library of pre-recorded lines that these guys sat in the booth and said. Well, I can already easily remove any voice audio with plenty of AI tools that exist, right? So I can record a whole game, have Al Michaels and Mike Tirico calling the whole game, and I can wipe their commentary out, but keep all the background audio. Okay, well, if I can do that, that means I can also transcribe the removed commentary audio. Well, if I can transcribe the removed commentary audio, I can use something like 11 Labs that does generative text-to-speech, and I can take the text that was said by the in-game commentators, run it through an LLM to make sure it's not talking about the Buffalo Bills anymore, but it's talking about the Buffalo Brawlers. It's referencing all the stats that we keep on League HQ, and then recycles that back into a fresh, clean audio take. I've got it like 90% working, but it just takes a little too much time to run right now because of all that work it's doing in the processing background to do 18 games a week. Right now, I could probably do 5 games a week like that. So I'm hoping that either the processing will speed up or I'll get a even beefier PC. I don't know, but there's ways where we're going to get to the point where you'll no longer hear the in-game commentary. You'll hear our cut, and we've already had our real commentary guys do AI voice cloning. So as soon as that's ready, like we're already testing with the AI voice clone. So as soon as that's possible, we'll fully switch, and you'll never hear a Madden commentator again. I know, it's super hardcore nerdery for a football video game, right?
So since it's still thinking, I will share why I think this is cool.
Sure.
So when I was, I don't know, however many years old, my version of this was with Super Tech Mobile.
Yes!
And so you could basically be a GM. You could have the computers play one another.
Yes.
And then when the season would be over, you could do trades.
Yep.
And so I was like, well, this is kind of sick because you can not play. But if you leave it on, it'll just play through every game.
Yes,
it'll just
yes, and that is the thesis we operate under. A lot of guys in our league talk about Tech
So
a lot of guys talk
so
about.
this is exactly that.
And this isn't teens. This, I mean, we have guys who are paying $500 to run a team each season. These are adults, like some of whom are older than I am, going like, "This is awesome, man! I got my own team," you know. Yeah. And what I will do, since I don't know if it's the internet or what, but it's definitely taking a little longer than I expected. So what I will do in the meantime is I'll show you guys some of the cool GM tools that I built into the system, right? Because like I said, you have to be able, you have to be able to run your team. So this is now what I call the GM dashboard. right? So you can do everything. You can see your cap space, your record, your overall roster. We give out credits to guys just for showing up to games, for commenting in the chat on the live stream. That's how you earn credits. That's how you upgrade your player, right? So you have to participate in order for your player to get better. It's one of the kind of baked-in things. But if I want to check out my roster and I want to adjust the depth chart, well, I built a full depth chart tool out, right? So now I can just say, okay, well, I want Burt Bean. No, I want William Paulson to be my quarterback instead. When I'm done with that, I update it, and then it should go into my little checklist here. So these are the things that you do throughout a week. You add all these things and they get added to your checklist, and when you're done, you hit submit. It used to basically just print out a sheet for me to then go manually do everything. Now, it just automates all those moves and updates the save file. I don't have to touch anything. I just look at and make sure that everyone's made their moves, and I basically hit sync and it just runs it, and then I have an updated file. So certainly been able to add a lot of cool bells and whistles as far as depth charts or actually let's look at that. The free agency salary cap thing was its own whole thing. Notice, does that GM look familiar at all? Yeah. So the salary cap was something that I've always been fascinated by salary cap math in the NFL. It's really complex, it's really convoluted, but like if you're a hardcore nerd who's kind of into stats, then it's interesting. Well, to try to reverse engineer the Madden video game version of a salary cap, which is not exactly how the real NFL salary cap works, and then be able to accurately recreate it in a way where guys can just make cuts on their teams. So they, if they wanted to, they could just release a guy outright and it would impact their cap. I'm not going to do it here because this is a live site and I don't want to release any guys, but literally anything you would do as a GM is now automated. So this was something that just got updated in the last 2 weeks. So never again will I have to sit there and manually do anything. I just make sure guys submit their stuff now, which again, Mrs. Rose is very happy. It's gotten all that time back where I can be filling dirt or whatever I'm told to do in the yard, Let's check back with Claude and see. No, he's still going. So I'll be honest, this was the easy one. It's taking much longer than I thought it was going to. Let's see what he is doing. Okay, so it's partially because it has to look up, not only you see it's like talking about acceleration, agility, it's trying to figure out which stats are the most logical to surface on a shareable player card, right? And then make sure, because the images are hosted different places, every video game model's face portrait is hosted on a content delivery network that EA Sports has, but they don't share the link to, so I had to find that. But then if you're a coach, that player portrait is only rendered by the in-game engine, which doesn't host those images anywhere. So you have to figure out, how can I replicate taking a snapshot of a 3D model inside the game to then generate a player portrait, like all sorts of deep stuff that is just complete, absolute nerdistry. It's just gonna keep going on this. Okay. I should have started the feature sooner. That's my bad. What else you guys want to know? Because I am running out of time, and technically we should be regrouping downstairs, right?
Yeah, we're gonna have lunch at 12.
There you go.
Yeah.
What else can I tell you? If this finishes, I'll show people around later.
I have a question.
Yeah.
This is like interesting because you're sort of not vibe coding, but vibe.
I would call it vibe
building.
coding for sure. Yeah, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. So, were you ever at a point where you were looking at text files that were being updated, and then this sort of seems like a more
this replaced all of that. So
Yeah.
I was doing everything manually. I was using separate tools to extract week 16, all 16 games that happened, all the stats per player per team. I was manually extracting all that stuff and then reapplying it to the right teams and players inside of the Madden or inside of our League HQ site. Now it's just click and done. But that was through a lot of vibe prompting to
right.
get us there.
It seems like a layer on top of that.
It is for sure. Like one of my very good friends who taught me things about web development, because we grew up on the same street. He said, you've actually built a product now, but I don't know if you realize it. And I said, no, I realize it, but because I'm more focused on getting it the way I want it and not productizing it. We've already had sponsors ask us, could you spin up our own version of this? We've had sponsor interest. We've actually been rebuffing a lot of that because we think if we can just get a little bit more scaffolding and a little bit more work under the hood, like we could really go to market and like get either some real cool stuff. Like we've had some cool conversations with Liquid Death, but like we're basically back pocketing that because I don't think everything's fully there and stable enough yet to then try to go out to, like, I'm a marketing guy. I know you have to have something to market, and right now it's like popsicle sticks and glue that I've built on my home PC, you know. So I still want to get the right infrastructure to be able to then more broadly kind of take it out to market. So I would say it's arguably still a proof of concept.
Did you? One question. Sorry. Did you like all the logos?
I did all that work.
Okay, so
I did all the design work.
Done by
yeah. So and that's a perfect example of the bridge, right? Like, why I could have just had AI do all the logos, but what fun is that? Like I'm originally an artist, you know, like my mother's a painter, like I'd like to think, and also just for me, like the funness of getting to design 32 team logos and also think about, okay, well, if they're in this city, what's important to them? Like we got into, you know, in the Albuquerque Dukes team, they have like a little Navajo weave pattern that's like barely visible in some of the stuff, but like it was cool to learn about cities that like I haven't spent as much time in, you know, so it was as much a selfish thing for me to do that. We could have done it much faster if we just pumped out some AI logos, but we also wanted to make sure that it was something that we felt was true IP versus, well, anybody could just spit junk out.
AI slop.
I mean, and we still get accused of that. People don't realize how much work has been put in, but like that's fine. It's not everybody's cup of tea. Like that's okay. You know, my wife has yet to watch a game, and I've been doing it for a few years. You know, so I understand it's not for everybody. Yeah, you had a question?
Yeah, I've actually got, I guess, two.
Sure.
So 32 teams. Were you stuck with that due to the original?
Just due to how
setup?
Madden is. So
yeah.
technically, you could have modded it to be like 16,
right.
but I didn't want to build our mod on top of somebody else's mod.
Okay.
So I just felt like, you know what, it'll be more work to do 32 teams, but I'll just do it.
Yeah, well, it sounded like quite the ramp up. That's why I'm wondering.
Yeah,
and
was.
then number two, are you running seasons like
Nonstop.
You probably
The championship is tonight.
Yeah.
Then just like real life, some coaches are going to get fired. Some already did. Guys have to. There's a whole actually I can show that too. There's a whole coaching element where when you're looking at here's some of the teaser visuals for the big game intro tonight. Also using generative AI, Kling, if you're not familiar with Kling. But there's a whole even like GM scouting for coaches, and you can see their backstories, and they're all contextual to what those guys have done in the league, right? So if I were to fire my coach, I wouldn't, because he's already won one championship. He might win another tonight. But you can see these guys have individual talent trees that you can make upgrades to with the different things that, you know, increase your defensive tackle strength rating. You can see the players that had standout performances under those coaches. Simple use of LLM to just auto-generate storylines for each coach based on the data that we have from what their teams have done in the league, right? So lots of extra deep dive stuff that's totally not necessary. But if you're going to pay money to be a part of the league, like we want to give those GM guys like every opportunity to be immersed. It's role play, right? It's Dungeons and Dragons, but for football nerds. You know?
So how many seasons are you running?
So this is the second pro season we're ending now. There had been 2 college seasons originally before we ever did a pro league, because we just didn't think we'd be able to do a pro league. So we figured with the old college game, we don't need to change colleges. Colleges are colleges. So real life colleges in our college league. But this is the second year of pro. Coaches will get hired and fired over the next week, and then our college season kicks off in a week and a half. Well, no, 2 weeks technically. Fortunately, that's my break. So the other guy records all the college games, I record all the pro games, and we basically each get a half a year where we're in trouble at home. That's basically how that works.
Nice.
I make it sound like my wife is an awful person. She's literally the greatest thing in all of recorded history. She's a 4th grade teacher. She walks on water. I live in fear of her. I don't want anyone to misconstrue what I've said in here today to be anything defamatory against my lovely, lovely wife, because I know I probably made some cracks. But the thing about me spending too much time with the league was a very real thing that drove me to use more AI in developing the league and how it functions so I could get time back.
As a designer, how do you, because we're all struggling with this, as you use AI, how do you define the threshold of this looks too much like AI, this needs to be more humanized?
You know, something I used to, first of all, I never thought I'd be responsible for human beings, right, like professionally. I went to film school thinking I'd be like a lone gun whatever guy. Fast forward in my career, I've got a team of like 36 people that I'm responsible for. I don't even know, I wasn't trained in their discipline, right? Like, I'm not a designer by trade, I'm a film school editor. But one thing I always used to tell, they're not kids anymore, some of them are full grown adults with families, but I used to tell them, you can't teach taste. And some people think you can, but I firmly believe you either understand what looks good and you can, even if you can't quite articulate it, you still have sensibility, and you can coach that up and you can refine it like any skill, but it's always subjective, right? What I think is the right threshold of what feels that uncanny valley moment. Somebody else may say, you're already past that. That looks really bizarre to me. And we have those healthy conversations. Like, fortunately, the guy I run the league with is not a creative type at all. He's just a hardcore football and data nerd. So he and I are able to, he's a very good sounding board for me because he doesn't understand what it's like working in a professional creative capacity. He has no context for make it pop. Like, he doesn't know any of those joke things that like clients say, but he will say those things. And then I have to reverse engineer, like, what do you really mean when you say make it pop? Or their faces look weird. How do their faces look weird? Is that they look too lifelike? They look too much like the player models? It's something else. So like, we've had to learn how to communicate in that way, but I think having somebody who is so far removed from a creative discipline has been really helpful. I think if it had been me and another super creative, designy type person, we probably would have pushed the pedal down too hard and maybe done things that were just like, I don't know, garish borderline, you know? So having that check has been helpful for me.
Yeah.
But there's not a good answer to your question, I guess.
The endless conversation of taste.
Yes, it's all taste.
And
It's all taste. Some people think this is in very bad taste that we did this and that we're building a product on hacking a game. Okay, well, whatever. Don't be a part of the Discord. I don't know. Don't join.
Every major corporation just builds on other people's work.
Thank you.
So,
There you go. You guys heard it here first. I didn't have to say it. Well, thank you guys. I'm sure this has been my time. Super weird thing. Thank you for even showing up and listening. I appreciate it. If you want to ever check it out, footballrivals.pro. Rivals Cup is tonight. Real commentary.
All right.
There you go.